Hi guys, today I'm going to present you our fourth lesson of Python programming language. So our lesson for today is about float. So what is a float? Float is simply a number that has a decimal point. It is different from integer that doesn't have a decimal point. So, for example, like when defined like any variable in Python programming language, so this variable can either be float or integer. So let's give example here. Let's to create our project 4. We simply just okay, just we new file. We just write project 4 dot py. Don't forget to add dot py. Okay, so here for example let's to define one variable is equal, for example, 6. Okay, there's also another variable is y equal 9.5. So the first variable x is you know is integer. Did you see that? Okay, so 6 colon in int, this means integer. So the second variable y is float. Okay. Okay, so also float can float can be produced also can be produced in many ways. For example, like whenever we use a division, so we'll produce float. Okay, so whenever we use division, we'll produce float. So whenever we divide two number, either float or either integer, will produce float. So let's give example here. Okay, let's to delete it. For example, we have a x equal 6 and another variable x equal, for example, 2. Did you notice that we have x is integer and y is integer? So let's to define another variable z equal x divided by y, and let's to print here z. Let's to print z. Okay, so in this case, let's do, of course, let's do execute our code first. Okay, so did you notice that sorry, the result is 3.0? This means it is float number, that because it's, of course, because it has a decimal point. So this because we use in our previous case we use division. So it is rule in Python, whenever you use division, the result will be float. Also, the float can be produced uh, by using also by using multiplication on a float, if on float and integer, or float and float. So whenever like we use multiplication on two float or on one float and another one integer, will produce float. For example, here x equal 6 and we have y equal 2.5. So for example, print here x multiply y, of course, will produce float. That is obvious, 15.0. Same things will happen like if you use like if you use addition, also if you use addition, also will produce float, because I'm using like because here y is a float, so and 6 is integer, so the result of course will be float. Also same things will happen like if you use minus. Okay, So here, like in the addition and subtraction and multiplication will follow the mathematical way. Okay, so two float will produce a float, one float and an integer will produce a float. In division here, of course, Python has its own rule. So whenever we use division, okay, this means the result will be float. So let's just check the subtraction here. C is also 3.5. Okay, thank you very much. This is the end of our class for today. See you on our next class.